U.S. President Donald Trump launched his Board of Peace from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The organization was initially designed to cement Gaza's rocky ceasefire and was endorsed by a United Nations Security Council resolution as part of Trump's Gaza peace plan. Trump, who will chair the board, says he thinks it will eventually tackle conflicts worldwide. Board members also include U.S. Gaza negotiators Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Leaders from around the world have signed up to participate. Those joining include Turkey and Saudi Arabia, while traditional Western U.S. allies have been more cautious. Trump said permanent members must help fund the board with a $1 billion payment.
The first meeting of President Trump's Board of Peace just wrapped up in Washington. At least 27 countries on the board had representatives there, while other countries like Italy, South Korea, and the European Union were there as observers.
Notably absent are several key U.S. allies like the UK, France, which have opted not to join that group. Well, today's meeting focused on the next steps for the ceasefire in Gaza. And it's happening as U.S. officials say the military is building up its presence there in the Middle East in preparation for a possible military strike on Iran.
Proposed Board of Peace is under fire tonight after reports allege there may be a price tag attached to permanent membership on that board. According to reporting from Bloomberg, who reviewed a copy of a draft charter, Trump is proposing that member states be limited to 3-year terms on the Board of Peace unless they pay $1 billion to join as permanent members. Trump would also serve as chairman and be tasked with controlling the money himself. Now, the White House responded to the reporting, writing on X, quote, "This is misleading. There is no minimum membership fee to join the Board of Peace. This simply offers permanent membership to partner countries who demonstrate deep commitment to peace, security, and prosperity." I'm having a hard time reading that with a straight face. First of all, because it's like $1 billion seems like very Austin Powers to kind of like sit there and be like,
Hello, Bobby Jones here from MeidasTouch and Ballard Media Networks. You know, the world is on fire. Like everywhere you look, some conflict, especially military-based, is happening. Whether we're talking about what's happening in the Middle East, which is dominating the headlines, what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. If we look into Africa, if we look at the various skirmishes in Asia, South America, it's all over. If only we had an organization that the world could sit down and hash out all of these issues in a very much more civil, diplomatic fashion. Oh, wait. We do have one of those. We just haven't really used it a lot. And, you know, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking of the United Nations. Oh, no. I'm talking about the Board of Peace. Let me refresh your memory. Back in Davos, Switzerland, January 22nd, 2026 to be exact, President Donald Trump announced the Board of Peace. It was sold as a solution to global conflicts. And this was a direct result of the conflict that was going on in Gaza. But unlike the United Nations, this was actually going to be effective. It was going to be led by Donald Trump himself. It was going to have an executive board of, get this, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and diplomat extraordinaire who had never been a diplomat before dealing with Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff. Well, everybody was kind of shocked. It kind of stole a lot of the headlines from Davos, which is basically an economic forum function. And then people's eyebrows raised a little bit more because Trump promised results, but the price of admission literally was $1 billion. Let me say that one more time. To join this organization, a country had to pay $1 billion. And to make it sound official, there were all these things that sounded very, very, structured, like, for example, 3-year terms, but they would be renewed at Donald Trump's discretion. And he invited well over 60 countries. And it was interesting to see who said yes. In the Middle East, you had the Saudis, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco, Israel. You had Turkey and Asia and beyond, Pakistan, Indonesia. You had in the European theater in Americas, Hungary, Albania, Bulgaria, Kosovo, El Salvador. it was an eclectic mix of countries that typically do not communicate with one another. But by saying they are going to be part of this, got direct access to the president of the United States and his inner circle. Interesting enough, the countries that said no, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Canada, Japan, Korea, China. Historically, countries that have been America's biggest allies, and China, America's biggest rival, depending on who you ask, they all said no. I wonder why that is. But that's neither here nor there. Again, we have an organization that can literally save the world. Those are not my words. Those are Donald Trump's. So let's check in to see how they're doing. Let's see, we had 9 countries pledge $7 billion towards Gaza relief, and Trump himself pledged $10 billion from the United States. Only problem is, according to this thing called the United States Constitution, he cannot just sign money away. That power of the purse resides with the United States Congress, which has yet to approve any of this. What's interesting enough, FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, was the only non-political person there, and he said he'd pledge something. Make it make sense to me. So here we have a lot of bluster that came from President Trump saying what can and cannot happen. Congress not even being involved. The world kind of surprised that this was even a thing. And then 6 weeks later, 6 weeks later, basically, the United States and Israel bombed Iran. Now, I don't know what that necessarily means, but if you are on the board of peace, you would think that your first inclination would to use said board that literally paid billions of dollars to form to negotiate and deal with the issues that you're dealing with. Oh, wait a minute. They did negotiate. And while they were negotiating, that's when the United States and Israel bombed Iran, not once, but twice. So where do we stand with this group that amazingly, it seems like the world has forgotten? We're looking at the countries that did not sign up, the UK, France, Germany, all of those countries, and they're forming basically their own de facto coalition because they can't rely on NATO due to the United States and their actions. You have China, who's been quiet, but actually went out of their way to say they want to use the United Nations system moving forward. And you have people who have been to war and know what the heck this all means, like the Ukrainian President Zelensky, who said it would be hard to be part of any council if it has Russia in it and is supposed to be designed for peace, as he consistently gets bombed. So the bottom line is this. As the United States is currently engaged in an active war with Iran, as President Trump keeps making ultimatums that he backs off of quickly when he sees the markets plummeting, we have an organization that was designed to stop all of it. This is what Trump sold to the world. But yet again, 6 weeks later, we're bombing Iran. The countries that joined are now caught in the actual blast radius of the conflict. All of those Middle Eastern countries. And then the countries that didn't join are looking at Donald Trump and said, we told you so. The Board of Peace has been chaired by a man who has received a lot of money from countries, and he decided to start a war of choice.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.